Hey guys, it's Theo. I have been learning Japanese for over 10 years now. Those of you that study this language as well will probably know that this doesn't mean much. At the time you feel like you're ready to jump into conversation, you just will get slapped across the face by realizing that to properly communicate, you need to understand the different talking styles that, by the way, vary by gender, hierarchy and age, as well as the slangs and the dialects. And when you finally learn not one, but two alphabets, you have to realize that it doesn't really mean shit because you can't read a newspaper without learning 3000 kanji first. Now, I did make a video in the past about my experience and the tips I would give beginners, but I feel like it's time to refresh this about the 5 things you should probably know before learning Japanese. Number 1. You will learn Japanese for your whole life. Now, as mentioned before, I have been learning Japanese for a very long time. I started learning Japanese even before I even got interested in learning English. And I still feel like my Japanese is way far behind when it comes to vocabulary, grammar and fluency. I mean, I'm still far from being perfect in those in English as well, but I think you get what I mean. And the thing here is that I'm comparing two pretty different languages. English, which is much more similar to the language I speak daily, is far less complex than Japanese, or probably any Asian language. That's why I kinda want to point it out at the beginning. Do not feel like you're not making any progress, or feel disappointed with your language level. I like to compare Japanese to learning martial arts, which you also will have to practice your whole life to master it to a certain level. And I'm not talking about getting a black belt, because that you can pretty much buy nowadays. And at least for me, the fact that you do have to invest that much time is one of the fun parts in learning this language. Because there's so much to learn to be even able to hold a simple conversation. I mean, it's already starting with the multiple ways you can say I in this language. So you will probably feel lost for a while until every piece you learned clicks into space and lets you see the whole picture. Which brings me to my second point. You need to learn about the culture as well. If you want to understand the language fully, you will need to learn the culture behind it as well. Why are there different ways to say I? Why is that grandma talking differently than that young boy? Why do all cashiers sound the same? And why do different kinds of politeness levels even exist? I think one of the most difficult things beginners have to understand is that there are many ways to say one and the same thing. And that Japanese people like to talk indirectly instead of just saying what they want. So there's a whole skill you need to learn to be able to read between those lines. Also, anime. I do encourage everyone that I know that wants to start learning Japanese to go and watch some anime. Because it's a great way to get a better understanding about how the language is pronounced and sometimes even how the culture works. But anime Japanese is not regular Japanese. Each character gets their own unique way of speaking to portray their personality more. So speaking like Naruto on a daily basis will probably sound a little bit strange, if you know what I mean. Informal and formal and everything in between. As I mentioned before with the cashier talking differently, formal and casual situations often call for a different way of speaking. While in English we may change the words and phrases we use in formal and casual situations, Japanese has rules to define formal and casual modes of speech. If you are learning Japanese, a good teacher will teach you the 3 most important speeches. You will need to be able to talk in a normal kind of way and one that you will be using with friends. And not to forget, a polite way to speak with someone above you. There are way more levels of speech, but these 3 are probably the most important ones to get by on a daily basis. Number 4. Decide what your goals are. Deciding what your main goal in learning a language is probably very important. At least for Japanese. Do you want to watch anime without subtitles? Well, then you probably won't need to learn kanji. Do you want to work in a Japanese company? Or do you want to teach English to students? Both seem similar, but for one you have to actually take a Japanese proficiency language test, and for the other you just have to apply. Depending on your goals, your main focus while studying will shift. And last but not least, find a native speaker online or in real life. Now, I know that many study out there using only textbooks or videos, but having a native speaker is, at least for Japanese, very important. Especially the right way to pronounce words and sentences is not something you can learn by yourself through a textbook. So if your goal is to be able to speak, try to find either a teacher around you or someone that gives online classes. There are also a lot of sites where you can find language exchange partners online. The more you're actually able to speak, make mistakes, and emerge in a culture, the easier and faster you will make progress. And those were the 5 things you should probably consider before learning Japanese. I hope I didn't discourage anyone and want to thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss next week's video, please consider subscribing. And I will see you all next Wednesday. Ciao!